viruses in general and what you can do to protect yourself. Because we're not hearing that very much from the powers that be or the press or whatever. So first of all, I want to thank you for coming out tonight and braving all the panic to sit in my office for 30 or 35 minutes to find out about how to be healthier and what is lifetime care all about. The reason I have these classes, and for some of you this is the first class that you've ever been to that I've done, the reason I have these is because I want to make you a lot more intelligent about how you think about your health. I want you to think about your health with wisdom. I want you to pursue a lifetime of being healthy rather than just being out of pain. Now, if you're in pain, I get it. You want to be out of pain. But I want you to understand that health is a lot more than just not having symptoms. Another thing that I want you to understand is that I want you to be able to communicate these truths to other people. So once you learn them, you can tell others about them, because there's a whole community out there that I think is pretty ignorant about how to take care of themselves. And so I want you to communicate some of the truths that we're going to be talking about to them. So, always helps when you put this in. Okay. Okay, so what is most people's approach to lifetime care, to taking care of themselves? There's a lot of dogma out there that's founded on cliches and not substance. So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think most people's approach is to lifetime care, to taking care of themselves for a lifetime? Anybody?
Exercise?
Okay, that'd be a good one if most people would do that.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. I agree with that. Well, how do you think most people approach it?
They don't.
Yeah, they really don't very much, okay? So the thing is, I think that most people's approach to lifetime care is, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. Or if you don't think it's broke, you don't fix it. So how does that apply to the guy that wakes up one day, usually it's a Monday, and they fall dead from a heart attack and they didn't know they had a problem? How does it apply to them? Here's another one, you just suffer, suck it up. Up way out in the middle of nowhere in West Texas. It was not a good day for me, I can tell you that. Not a good day at all. I learned a really powerful lesson when I was 16 about how to take care of cars. All right? We changed the oil because we want the car to run its best. Okay? And as human beings, we want things to work their best. We want our bodies to work. And everybody wants new and better. We want cars that are safer, faster, cell phones that have better service and better features. But that doesn't always mean that we want to pay the price. So people, a lot of times, tend to make fun of people who do things like exercise regularly, take vitamins, or eat a healthy diet. You ever heard this? What are you, some sort of a health nut? I mean, so what's the other person, a disease nut? I mean, I've been called a health nut before. That's like a badge of honor, And so it's also true with your chiropractic care. They may ask you, well, didn't they fix you yet? I mean, you need to go back again. You're still not free of pain. Do you think it's possible that if you've had a problem for 25 or 30 years, it might take a little time to fix it? Okay, you think it's a possibility? Yeah. Okay. Now, let me ask you this about sickness and disease. Are the symptoms the first things or the last things that happen during a health places. Last things that come on the scene. Yeah. So by the time you got symptoms like this, let's take this coronavirus, okay? What have you heard about it regarding getting it and then getting the symptoms?
2 weeks. 5 days.
What did you say?
2 weeks for it to come up.
Yeah, you can walk around with it for 2 weeks before you get symptoms, okay? That's pretty much true with all disease processes, okay? So when you get the symptoms, that means you've had the problem for a while. So we don't exercise today so you don't have a heart attack tomorrow. You exercise because it enhances your whole life, even the meals you eat. You don't read today to fix your brain so you don't get a headache. You read to keep your brain sharp, okay? And we know that that's a fact, that the more you read, that when you read and you study, that keeps your brain a lot healthier. And that's just the reality of it. So anything that applies to the virtue of existence is a process. It's not an end result. So we have to be engaged in that process of health. So let me ask you this. When are you going to be done exercising? I mean, do you just like at 39, that's it, you know? No more exercise for me. I've done enough, okay? What about eating the right food? You know, some people were done when they were 10, you know, but you know, you just say, well, I'm 45 now and I've eaten healthy enough, you know, I'm just going to start going back to McDonald's, you know. No, we don't do that. Hopefully you don't do that. When are we going to be done brushing our teeth, okay? You just quit when you're 45, 50? No, I mean, how many people want to keep their teeth? I mean, I certainly do, okay? We brush our teeth because we want to hang on to them. We eat the right food because we want to be healthy. It's a process. It's something that we just do. It's part of the virtue of existence. When are we going to be done praying? I mean, hopefully everybody here does that. I do it. When are we going to be done loving our family? I mean, is there a time limit on that too? No, it's a process. Okay, so this brings us to discussion of lifetime care, and this is a discussion a lot of not many people really engage in, and I would say this: the fact that you guys are even here listening to this, you're a minority, because it takes a certain sense of evolved thinking to pursue this topic rather than just responding when you're not well or when you have pain, okay, or when there's a crisis. And we all know that in our culture right now, we've got a crisis, okay? So we don't wait till the IRS has seized our home before we answer their letters, right? At least most people shouldn't, okay? We don't wait till we have a heart attack and we need a heart transplant to take care of our hearts. At least we shouldn't. Now, I know that we're all prone to laziness at times, and occasionally it's fine to sleep in a little bit, read an extra piece of pie, you know, maybe once or twice a year, but that should not define our lives. It should not define how we live. So, in lifetime care, I want you to think of a few important words, okay? Process, not outcome. Engagement, not the return. In other words, lifetime care is a never-ending process that we're constantly engaged in. So, some people, when they start chiropractic care, they hear stories like, you know, you have to go for the rest of your life. Well, you don't really have to if you don't want to, okay? I mean, I don't chain you in my office, okay? The thing is that a lot of people that start chiropractic care find out that they're actually a lot healthier, you know, when they're being adjusted. They find out that their bodies work better, and they want to continue that. But you don't have to. You know, that's one of the reasons that a lot of chiropractic patients continue chiropractic care. They become more informed, and they begin to experience health and vitality rather than just a reduction in pain. I'll give you an example of that. I have a patient that came to me late last summer. She's a patient of mine through most of this winter, and she told me this. Now, she didn't come into me for this, but she said this to me. She says, you know, this is the first winter I've ever gone through that I've never been sick. She says, I think it's because of what's happening here in your office, okay? And, you know, I think she's probably right, okay? Because as we're going to learn when we get into the coronavirus, one of the most powerful things that you can do for your body is get adjusted. One of those powerful things you can do to upregulate your immune system and make your immune system function better is to get adjusted, okay? Now, I want you to think about that, and I'll ask you why that is in just a minute. So this is a particular guy. I'll just say his name is Bill, and he came into me. He was coming into me for, you know, your typical chiropractic type things, you know, neck pain, back pain, and he got this stomach issue, this GI issue, and you know, he didn't talk to me about it. He ended up going to the emergency room, and I don't believe it was a real emergency, but that's where he went. And $10,000 worth of tests later, they said, you know, we just think you need you know, some laxatives and you'll be okay, you know. And so he came to me finally, and I worked on him, and I figured out what it was, and he hasn't had a problem there since. And since that time, this guy is like, he's like all in. He goes, you know, I'm going to come to you first before I go to the emergency room because I don't want another $10,000 worth of bills, okay? So let's take another understanding, another understanding of lifetime care. Caring for yourself is something that you do at certain moments and not at other moments. And my contention is we render care to ourselves at every moment. Okay, how does that work exactly? Well, how about our attitudes? How about the way that we think? Anybody ever hear of this guy here, Hans Selye? Adam, I know you know who he is, but Dr. Adam. Anybody? You ever heard of the term stress?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he's the one that developed that whole theory on stress back in the 1940s. Hans Selye, he's a very well-known scientist. And he found that cancer grows faster with stressful thoughts. Now, that was a radical concept back in the 40s, and he got, like, he was pretty, I wouldn't say they crucified him, but he got a lot of flack for that. And now it's accepted, today it's accepted that the thoughts we keep can accelerate the pace at which disease occurs. So the thoughts that you think, that you walk around thinking all day long, have an impact on your health. Now, let me ask you this about the coronavirus that's out there. How many of you think that the panic that people are under, and I've seen some people, is helping their immune systems get stronger? No. You know, this stress and this panic is probably lowering their immune system, making them more susceptible to getting it. Here's another one, Reiki Hamer, who's one of my heroes. He's a German physician, and what happened with him is his son was murdered, and it was about 6 months later that he developed testicular cancer. And he goes, wow, he goes, there must be a reason that this is happening. I mean, you know, some people trip over the truth and they just kind of walk on. Well, he tripped over the truth and got up and said, there's got to be something to this. So he found out that every cancer has a negative emotional origin, and there's a very specific emotional trauma that's associated with every cancer, and there's a very specific part of the brain that trauma resides in, and he was able to prove that with MRI. And for example, he like lung cancer was grief or sorrow. Stomach and small intestine was indigestible anger. Okay, liver, starvation of love. Those are some of the emotions that he came up with that cause these diseases. And he has a whole list of them. And I won't go into that. But what I want to say is that lifetime care is also about our attitudes, and our attitudes towards ourselves and our attitudes towards others, and the ability to forgive when we've been wrong. Because if you let that percolate, that's going to cause problems. So we render care to ourselves, number one, by the beverages we choose to drink. Okay? Is Coca-Cola a good beverage? No. Okay. Just checking. Okay. All right. Whether or not we choose to exercise, the food we choose to eat, how much we chew our food. I'm not very good at that. That's one thing I need to do better on. Whether we smoke cigarettes, whether we drink to extreme, whether we have limited sugar or too much sugar. Okay, what does sugar do to our immune systems, by the way? Anybody?
Interferes.
What?
Interferes with our immune system.
Crashes your immune
Yes.
system. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Sugar crashes your immune system. So if you want to make sure that you're really susceptible to the coronavirus, then eat lots of sugar, man.
Yeah.
Go get yourself a big cheesecake and dig in, okay?
Get a Coke on top of it.
Yeah, chase it with a Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, whether we consume artificial sweeteners, which are known to damage nervous system function, okay? Are we rendering care to our body every living and breathing second? What about when we sleep? Well, what about it? You know, anybody ever gone to sleep mad? I mean, I admit it, I have, okay? I've done it. Okay, I try not to, but I've done it. So what happens when that percolates around in your brain all night long? Do you think that's good or bad for your body?
Your brain doesn't rest, so it just keeps going.
Yeah, and what's it doing to the rest of your body when you go to bed angry? Not very good, okay? So even when we sleep, so lifetime care is not a choice. I mean, everything we do, we're rendering care to ourselves. The question is what kind of care are we rendering to ourselves? The question should really be, are we continuing to make greater improvements in the type of care that we're rendering to ourselves? Okay? So that's a shortened talk on lifetime care. Now I want to get to the coronavirus, and I want to talk about viruses so you understand what's going on here. The mode of transportation of viruses is sneezing and coughing and propelling it through the air. Okay, that's how their viruses are transmitted. A virus replicates itself by attaching to the cell wall, penetrating and getting into the nucleus of the host cell, and then replicating on the host cell DNA. So viruses are like a CD or a DVD. They need a player. Okay, they can't do anything without a player. Okay, the player is the DNA inside your cell. So it gets into the cell, it breaches the cell wall, goes into the cell, gets into the nucleus, and then it starts replicating. Okay, that's how a virus works.
So, Paul, if the virus is sneezing, coughing, so it's liquid, it's a form of liquid, so it attaches to a liquid cell in the body.
Viruses have different predilections for different cells. So like the coronavirus is really attaches to the lung cells, has a predilection for the lung cells. Okay? So what does that mean? That means if you smoke, you're weakening your lungs, and you have a greater capacity for that virus to attach to your lungs, or if you've had lung issues. Okay? Now, the coronavirus is an enveloped virus. Now, let me explain what that is. That means when that virus breaches, an enveloped virus is when the virus breaches the cell wall or the cell membrane, it wraps itself in the protein, and then goes into the cell, into the nucleus. Now, that's important because when a virus wraps itself in your body's protein, it's like a cloaking device. And your immune system's a much harder time identifying it, okay? That's what this is. That's what the AIDS virus is also. So some viruses go dormant and wait till you're stressed or you're nutrient deficient, okay? So we can carry around viruses. In fact, I guarantee you all of us are carrying around viruses right now. We all have viruses in our body. The question is, are they going to express themselves? Okay, so is anybody here except me ever gotten sick when they got stressed out?
All the time.
I mean, I have. And one of the things I've learned about myself is that I really have to control stress in my life, because if I don't, I'll get sick. People can cough on me, they can sneeze on me. I don't get sick, but if I get stressed out, I tend to get sick. Why? Because stress lowers your immune system. I'll show you how that works in just a minute. So, all of a sudden, okay. Why isn't this working all of a sudden?
Your light's red on your little laptop, is that okay? Are you charging it?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
It's plugged in. Now, this is odd. Why did this all of a sudden?
Technical difficulty?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay, so, let's see.
Is the battery good in the remote?
Yeah,
There you go.
okay, here we go. So the coronavirus has a propensity to go after lung tissue. That makes smokers more vulnerable. So let's talk about the things that we can control. Now, there's some things we can't control about the coronavirus. Number one is it tends to go after older people, okay? We can't control our age, okay? So like the mortality rate for the coronavirus for people in their 80s that get it is about like between 13 and 14%. In their 70s, it goes down to around 11%. And it keeps going down to where if you're in your 40s, it's 0.4%. But we can't control how old we are, okay? But there are certain things that we can control. Number one is we can control nutrient deficiencies. This is a big deal, okay? This is something that we're not learning from the press, who I think are doing a terrible job of reporting this. We're not learning that we can when we have nutrient deficiencies, they make our immune system weaker, and nutrient deficiencies make viruses stronger, okay? So let's look at key nutrients. Number one is ionized calcium. Now, that's not any calcium, it's ionized calcium. So we know that what kills bacteria in the body? I mean, what cells attack bacteria and viruses in the body? White blood cells. So we all know that. So we know that they kill them, but do we know how? The answer is yes. They use ionized calcium, okay? Calcium lactate is the most ionizable calcium known to man, okay? Calcium lactate ionizes very easily, which is why I recommend it for as a strategy in protecting yourself. So vitamin C, a whole food vitamin C complex. This is an antiviral nutrient, okay? It decreases the susceptibility of getting infection. It increases your white blood cell count. And when infected, when people get infected with viruses, actually downregulates or decreases vitamin C. And vitamin C upregulates or increases what we call natural killer cells, and it makes interferon. Now, what does anybody know what interferon does in the body? Okay. So what happens is when a virus gets into your cell, and it gets into the nucleus and it starts replicating viruses, what happens is eventually that cell will break apart and spread viruses in your body. Well, what vitamin C does is it makes interferon. Interferon goes in, recognizes that the cell is being infected, and kills the cell so the viruses cannot replicate, okay? That's why vitamin C is very important.
When you said whole complex, what do you mean?
Vitamin C consists of a lot of different things. It's not just ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is the antioxidant part of vitamin C that protects the rest of the vitamin C nutrients. So there's other things in there, like there's tyrosinase, there's bioflavonoids, there's copper, organic copper is part of the vitamin C complex. Those other things are really, really important for immune function and for your thyroid function. And I want to say this, is and this has been newly discovered pretty recently, is there's a real a connection between thyroid and immune function. So low thyroid sort of tends to pull down your immunity. The whole food vitamin C complex contains tyrosinase. which is really important for thyroid function. So that's that interplay between the thyroid and the immune system. That's why I like the whole food complex form. I'm not saying that the ascorbic acid won't work. I just think you need less vitamin C when you have it in the whole food complex.
Like an orange or something.
Yeah, yeah. And ours is called Cataplex C, and that's in a lot of the products that I carry. Cataplex C is. Vitamin E. Vitamin E builds resistance to viruses. Selenium, which usually you see a lot with vitamin E, is a very powerful antioxidant. It's also very necessary for thyroid function. And like I said, recent research links the thyroid to the immune system. Zinc, necessary for over 200 biological functions necessary for the immune system. Vitamin A, very important for immune and thyroid function. Notice that we have vitamin E, vitamin A, and finally vitamin D, which are what class of vitamins? Fat soluble vitamins. Okay, so vitamin D modulates the immune system. Okay, viruses tend to downregulate vitamin D receptors. In other words, they make when you're infected with viruses, they make vitamin D less effective. Is what that means. Vitamin D is really, really important for the immune system. So that's why people get sick in the winter, because we get vitamin D from what? The sun. Sunlight's very important, okay? So in my comprehensive lab tests that I do, vitamin D is a very important part of that, because I want to see what's going on. Vitamin D is really not even a vitamin, it's a hormone, okay? It's called a vitamin, but it looks a lot like the hormones made from cholesterol, like testosterone and estrogen and progesterone and cortisol. It looks a lot like that. We call it a vitamin. It's really a hormone, and it's involved in about regulation of about 2,000 different genes in the body. So now let's talk about gut bacteria. The bacteria in our gut has a huge effect on our immune system. Has a huge effect on our brain too. It's called the gut-brain relationship. When we sterilize our gut with antibiotics, we greatly increase the chance of getting infections. That's the paradox of antibiotics. We take them for infections, but it actually increases our chance of getting infections because of what it does to the GI tract. So other things do that too. Chemotherapy drugs sterilize the gut, kill good bacteria. Steroids, okay? And other drugs do the same. In fact, some of the over-the-counter drugs, like ibuprofen and things like that, will interfere with gut bacteria. So these drugs, they actually break down our immune systems and make our bodies weak to where we can't fight off viral infections. So if you've had a history of taking lots of antibiotics, what you want to do is replace the gut bacteria. And so what would be some good things to replace gut bacteria with? Oh, bingo. Good job. Sauerkraut. The number one thing. A good quality sauerkraut. And here's another thing about sauerkraut I want you to know. It's the highest food in terms of vitamin C. Sauerkraut has more vitamin C in it than any other food. Yeah. It also, you got to get a good quality sauerkraut. It also contains a chemical or an amino acid called glutamine. It's really good for your gut function. So sauerkraut is a very, very good food. Good job.
Where do we get it?
You get
What is its kind?
you can get natural sauerkraut in lots of places.
Not cooked in a can.
Yeah, not
Talking
cooked.
Like
We're-
the deli or something.
Yeah, we're talking about where they have it in the refrigerated section, like Bubby's is a good brand of sauerkraut. Very high in vitamin C, and it replaces the good gut bacteria. Okay? What else would be good for this, replacing gut bacteria? Acidophilus, like a probiotic. Really helpful.
Kombucha tea.
Kombucha tea, yeah. I mean, I live and die on kombucha tea. It's about the only use I have for sugar. Is you make kombucha tea with sugar. Sugar ferments, starts as a fermenter and ferments the tea. But yeah, I drink a lot of kombucha tea. So you're definitely your fermented products, your probiotics like lactobacillus. Lactobacillus also penetrates biofilms, which are, I talk about that in another talk that I do. Stress, we talked about stress, makes you more susceptible to viruses. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, and I said this already, the fastest way to stimulate your immune system, upregulate immune function, is to get adjusted, bar none. Do I believe in vitamin supplements? Absolutely, I take them. I take all my stuff, okay? Do I believe in fermented foods? Absolutely, I eat fermented foods. But when I'm sick, if I get sick, the first thing that I want to get adjusted, because that gets me better faster than anything. And my chiropractor, the one who adjusts me, and a lot of people ask me, who adjusts you? You know, he's sitting right back there in the black hat, the green shirt, okay? You know, I can't tell you how many times I've had him come in on a weekend. If I wasn't feeling good, I get adjusted, okay? It stimulates the immune system faster than anything that I know. So many of you out there probably know people who are sick a lot, okay? You know, you probably know some of those people. I would say this, have them come in and let me just check them for subluxations. Let me just check them to see, let's check their spine and their nervous system to see how they're doing. They don't have to be patients here, but at least get them checked, okay? And we do that at our expense because, you know, if they're sick all the time, there's a reason for that, okay? So, that's all I have for tonight. I actually got done a lot faster than what I thought I did, so we're only 2 minutes over 7. Yes?
The letter. The green letters.
Oh, yeah. So, I want to pass these out. This is our statement on the coronavirus, and it has a lot of the stuff that I went over on the viruses. So you're all welcome to have one of these, okay?
It's very useful.
I talked about all the supplements for the immune system, where you get them in foods and things like that. So you're all welcome to have one of these. Yes, John, you have a question?
When it comes to the supplements, I try to eat a pretty decent diet, and I do, but the question becomes, how do I gauge whether I need A or K or D or selenium, just because, but I do remember my dad said a million years ago, he'd say, if you get excess vitamins, the worst that can happen is you're just gonna expel them. And so then my question is, how do I gauge whether I should do it, or I just say, hey, a little bit too much is okay, because I'm gonna excrete it out? So how do I approach that, to think
Well,
about that?
you get one of these, right?
I haven't got one.
Okay. You got one? Okay. So you want one in? Okay. So here's my answer to that, is that one of the things you can do is you can have a blood test, okay? So blood test is going to test your vitamin D. Now, it doesn't test everything, but I can tell what your vitamin D levels are. I can tell what your selenium levels are by just looking at your T3 and your T4 with your thyroid. If you have normal T4 and low T3, I know you're selenium deficient. Okay, and there's going to be a talk, in a couple of months on how to interpret blood work. We're going to do it right here. I'm going to talk about those things. So, as far as zinc goes, I can look at your alkaline phos. If your alkaline phosphatase, which is a zinc-dependent enzyme, is low, I know you're zinc deficient. So I can take a blood work and look at it. There's some things it doesn't test, but it tells me a lot. So just looking at a blood panel will tell me some things. Okay, tell me a lot. So that's what I would use. Okay.
So if a guy did maybe once a year did a blood test, or maybe once or twice, then that would be
That's good. Yeah.
generally sufficient.
As long as it's a thorough blood test. You know, a lot of them aren't very thorough. And I do mine's pretty thorough. So so that's what I would do. Okay. Now when we're in this situation that we're in now, like, you know, everybody's panicked and everybody, you know, this virus is floating around and who knows who's going to land on, you know. So then you might want to take a little more supplements, do a little extra. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I'm not scared of this thing that everybody says we're supposed to be scared of, because, I mean, that's why I take care of myself. So anyway, but you can take, like, we have products, we have, and I've named them here, like Imuplex, Echinacea, really good products. Imuplex has vitamin A in it, it has zinc, it's got selenium, got vitamin C, doesn't have calcium lactate, that's something you have to get. So a lot of the products here that I have, you know, are really good for protecting yourself. So you can use those if you want, you know. But here's the thing about nutritional supplements, and I'm a big believer in them. But if you're eating a high sugar diet, like we talked about, you're pounding down cheesecake, you're chasing it with Coke, you know, you can't make up for that by taking all supplements. You just can't do it. Okay. The supplements are designed to help you know, at least a halfway decent diet, okay? But if you're eating a terrible diet, supplements are not going to make up completely for that, you know? And the food you put in your mouth, that's the last thing I'll say, is the most powerful medicine that there is. What you eat is the most powerful medicine that there is. And in March 31st, which is 2 weeks, we're doing a talk called What's Wrong with Our Diets. I'm going to get into that really thoroughly, a lot more than I got into it now, okay? So you can come to that talk. Listen, that's all I have for tonight. Thank